Welcome to the Indie Horror Junkie podcast. Tonight, you will be joining Rotting Ricky and Asylum Amy as they play host to some of the true movers and shakers in the indie horror scene. So lock your doors, check under the bed, and get comfortable, because here we go.
And we're the Saska Sisters. And this is Indie Horror Junkies! Indie Horror Junkies! Indie Horror Junkies!
Hello, boys and girls. Rotting Ricky here for you on a fabulous Wednesday. My partner, Amy, Asylum Amy, as you know her, will not be joining us today. She's a little under the weather, but she'll be back next week. But that means that I've got the stage all to myself, and I fully intend to take advantage of it. So we're going to have some fun today. We have a very special guest with us that we're going to get to here that's going to be able to talk a lot about an upcoming film that we're really excited about, distribution, the filmmaking process, the whole bit. So we're really going to get into it hard and heavy with him. But before we do that, we do have a little bit of housekeeping just to make sure that everybody's in the loop. So let me go ahead and chat about a couple things we have going on. First and foremost, of course, as I've been pimping every single week, we have our film, our first Indie Horror Junkie feature film, which is The Clock, that's currently out in distribution with Bayview Entertainment. It's currently available streaming with Tubi, Amazon, Vudu, Plex, Chilling, FlexFling, and a few more coming up here shortly. It's also available recently now on Blu-ray that you can pick up through Bayview Entertainment. You can also pick it up through Indie Horror Junkie as well. So definitely take a look at that. We're very excited about that film. We had a great time making it, and we hope that you'll enjoy seeing it as well. Next up, let's go. A couple of appearances that we've got coming up here. Well, my partner Amy here is going to be a special celebrity guest at New Jersey HorrorCon. So definitely check that out. It's going to be May 17th and 18th. She'll be there. She'll have Indie Horror Junkie magazines, t-shirts. She'll be signing autographs, taking pictures, kissing babies, all that good stuff. And if you check out the New Jersey HorrorCon website, they've got a slew of great special guests as well. So definitely check it out. Go see her if you're in the area. If not, get on a plane, find her, tell her Rick said hi. Okay. And then our next event that we're going to be at together is going to be Scaricon. Let's pull this bad boy up. There we go. Submissions are now open for the film festival aspect of Scaricon. So if you've got a short or a feature film that you want to see shown there at Scaricon, which is going to be held in Syracuse, New Jersey, New York. I don't know why I'm saying New Jersey. I just got done saying New Jersey. Yeah, Syracuse, New York. The actual event is going to take place September 5th through 7th. Indie Horror Junkie will be there running the film festival. We'll also have a table on set. And just to kind of give you a little heads up here, they've got some fantastic special guests that they've just announced. First up, they announced the Queen, Felicia Rose. She'll be there. Next up, they announced Dave Sheridan is also going to be a special guest there. And then a personal friend of mine, Daniel Roebuck, will also be there. And then just this Monday, they announced a big one. Boom, Kane Hodder, who always gets a great crowd there. He'll be there. And they said they're not done yet. They've got more guests that are going to be announced here shortly. If you're a vendor and you want to set up a table there, I think they still have some table space available. So you definitely want to reach out to them, see if you can get plugged in. We'll have the film festival if you've got a film to submit to us, and definitely come out there. It's the Scaricon Horror and Pop Culture Convention, September 5th through 7th at the Marriott Syracuse downtown. You definitely want to check that out. It's going to be a great event. Let's see. What else do we have here for you? Oh, our good friends at Terra Cards. They just released The Clock. These are free digital trading cards, and they have basically a game that you can go to and you can collect the cards, you can trade them. It's really cool. So if you get a chance, definitely go to terracards.com, download your cards, trade away, make sure you collect all the clock cards. And if you collect all the clock cards, from my understanding, once you collect all the clock cards, a free bonus card is going to be issued to you. So you'll have that as well. But if you get the clock cards, of course, you don't want to trade those. You're going to keep those because those are going to be classics. So definitely hold on to those. All right. Trying to whip through all these little things so I can get and bring on our special guest. What else do we have here for you? Oh, our last issue. There you go. Which our happy 2-year Indieversary. And it also featured our good friend Amy Schumacher, who was also our indie horror hottie for that issue. As you can see her there. Woohoo! She's such a great lady. She was an amazing person to have at our Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest. And we are so proud to have her in the magazine. And there you go. So definitely the latest issue is out now. You can get all the issues at indiehorrorjunkie.com. They're available in digital format, and they're also available in print format, and they ship throughout the continental U.S. So let's go ahead. I think we've whipped everything out there. So let's go ahead. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry about that. There you go. Of course, how could we not promote our own Indie Horror Junkie Film Fest? This is going to be held in next year, March 19th through the 22nd. It's going to be held at the MegaCon convention, as always, in Orlando, Florida. We have already opened up the submission process. So if you have a short or a feature-length film, definitely get in there while the prices are low. Get your film submitted to us, and we can screen them in front of 200,000 of our dearest friends over there at MegaCon. So definitely come check it out. All right. I think I got it all out there as quickly as possible. And I will get to your comments. I see them rolling in already. I'll start bringing them up as soon as we bring our guest on. But let me go ahead and introduce our guest, okay? Our guest is Mark Hamer. I'm sorry. He's from a film that we just recently picked up, and we just did an article on it right here that's going to be in the upcoming issue, which gets released on May 13th. So he's got a new movie called Replicator that we're going to be jumping into and chatting about. Really excited about that. This is the article that's going to be in the upcoming magazine. So definitely you're going to want to pick that up. This is Replicator right here. Here's a couple of stills from the movie itself. I mean, the visuals are so cool. The stills look awesome. And the special effects I can't wait to jump into it. I'm going to show you the trailer right now, as we always do. And as the trailer plays, I will bring Mark onto the screen. And then we'll go ahead and start jumping right into it. So right now, enjoy the trailer for Replicator.
Let me guess, court decision didn't go your way.
Well, yeah, there's that, too. Dad called me last week.
Oh, shit! Ron, what are you doing here?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious.
Shut up. What did he say?
I made a mess out of you. Good morning, dear. From now on, I'm gonna be the father you deserve.
I don't even know who the real Ron is anymore.
We'll get this figured out.
It's your job. You're right this time.
After I took all the organs out of the body, I couldn't get them all back in.
This one really has us stumped. A lot of peculiar pieces to put together.
Ron's dead. What? How? Yeah, I don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. Some disgusting disease. It's not contagious or anything, right?
She is everything. And everywhere, you just have to know how to listen for her voice. Ron hurt me in ways that I can't even describe.
You deserve to be tried in a court of law, because that is the world that we live in.
Kind of jumpy, aren't you? No, sister. We're family now. This should be interesting.
How cool is that? Mark, did I butcher your name?
You know what? Everybody does. It's just part of the thing. You know, like I feel like my name should be Hammer. No, I'm sorry, Hamer. I'm going to start spelling it that way.
There you go. That was a very cool looking trailer. Absolutely.
Cool.
I must admit. Give us the scoop on basically where you're at with that film as we sit right now.
Yeah, so we shot that, I think in, I can't even remember, 23, I believe, maybe 24. Anyway, we went through post at the beginning of 24. We actually released it in end of October, right around Halloween time of 24. It had a short theatrical run, and then it went to streaming at the beginning of this year. So in January, it went to TVOD, and that's where it's at currently. So Amazon, Apple, Google, Fandango at home, and Cranked Up TV. It's a new service that's out there with all, like indie horror stuff. It's on that platform, and it'll be there for a while until it goes to like its next phase. And we're also in the putting a physical out right now. So Blu-ray and all the special features and everything that goes along with it, but that's be in a couple of weeks.
Let me ask you about that, because that is something that I always try to ask everybody, because like I was telling you offline earlier, we get a lot of filmmakers and actors and actresses that watch the shows. We always try to give them the inside background scoop. What are your thoughts on the physical media? Because I'm a huge physical media fan. I've got 3,000 DVDs and Blu-rays in my living room here, which is ridiculous, but hey, that's what I like. But you always hear these horror stories that they're going away and everybody's taking them off and nobody's making them anymore. What are your thoughts on the whole physical media? Is it gone? How important is it? And if so, when do you think? Where do you think it's going to go next?
I love physical media, right? Like, I think that's part of the movie experience. And let's be honest, like that's why I think we all love this too. Is like everything that goes around. It's the movie, but then everything that goes around the movie itself. It's the art, the artwork. Like the key art, the soundtrack, like the physical media, all the behind the scenes photos, everything I think is like really, really cool for all movies, right? Like I think that's just part of it. And so, like I think, when you say it goes away, like maybe like when you think about like in terms of like the mainstream, but like in the indie world, I think, like the physical media is something definitely worth having and worth pursuing and worth the expense of it, right? I think a lot of indie filmmakers don't put that into the budget, or they don't think about it, or they don't do it at the end because they don't think there's going to be a return on it. And you may or may not get a return. Most likely, you won't get a return by the time you put in all the expenses that go along with it. But the value of it to me outweighs that, because now you have this piece of paraphernalia that can sit on the shelf, that can sit on the table, that someone sees it years from now, they're gonna like pick it up and talk about it. That's the thing about digital, like if everything just lives on digital, it's out of sight, out of mind. Right. Like you forget about it and you don't see it. But if I have a like a boatload of DVDs, even VHS, like I'm just going through all this stuff that I held on to, and it's just cool because you see it and, it brings up a memory, it brings up, like all kinds of things, conversation piece, so I don't think, maybe in its like, we're talking about like physical media, maybe in its form, like as a Blu-ray, that may be going away, but like there's always something else, I think that you can be using. It just happens to be currently the latest, greatest is, like the Blu-ray format.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head earlier, because especially when it comes to the indie filmmakers, I think they live and breathe pretty much for the most part on physical media. Because most of them are doing conventions and different events and stuff like that. They're there, and at their table, they always have the DVDs or the Blu-rays or things like that. So I think they're always going to have that. To me, I love bringing them to conventions and stuff and finding my favorite actors and actresses and having them sign off on it. I don't know how many signed autographs I've got on here. I had my Night of the Living Dead that I brought to Tampa Bay Screams and had Marilyn Eastman sign before she passed. I mean, those are memories that I was there with her and chatting with her and have her signature, and she's gone now. And that's the kind of, you can't get her to sign a stream, or sign my phone, something like that. Yeah. So
no, you can. Like I said, like it's out of sight, out of mind. You kind of like forget about it, and I think people like having that stuff. And it's also really cool when you have
looks like we're losing your audio a little bit. You're fading.
How about now? You got me?
There you go. Now we got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was saying it's even cool when you, or I should say even cooler when you can see it in like different languages. You know what I mean? Like when it pops up in German, and like you're reading it, you're like, well, I think they wrote it right there. I guess I'll have to Google Translate it to make sure that it didn't do something weird. Exactly. But I think, that physical media is awesome.
Plus, also like you said earlier too, all the extras that you get, like for our clock and stuff, we've got it out there on streaming. You can go see it on Tubi and this and that. And that's all well and good. But if you get the Blu-ray, you get to hear audio commentary from me and my DP. You get to see a bonus featurette that I put together for a radio show called Hickory Dickory Doom that the movie's based on. You can't see that on the streaming services. So to me, physical media will always be prominent as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what else too with physical media. I don't know if you noticed this from watching, from watching things on streaming. Is I see more and more like the credits getting cut off. Like at the end, even on a streaming platform, and it pops up into like a little window, and it just shows you what's next. Like to me, that's a disservice to all those people that worked on it.
Exactly.
Like I think that should stay full screen, until it's done. And so like when you do have it on physical media, or you watching it like in that environment, you're there, you're watching it.
Great point. To me, it's like the radio. Whenever you hear a song on the radio or something, they always have those radio edits, that makes the song a little bit shorter because they want to give more bang for the buck and more songs in there. I want to hear the whole song, so go buy the CD.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so give us the skinny here on Replicator. Tell us how this came about, where the process started, because like I said, we have a lot of filmmakers that want to hear how you got it, because that trailer looks amazing. So let us know how you got to this point.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's a cosmic horror. It's set in modern day, mostly all practical effects, and that was kind of the goal when we went into it. Like we wanted to make something that was just cool and fun, and have that ability to showcase some skills of the crew that we had. We knew that we were going to work with, and how can we feature them and really write some cool stuff. When you talk about writing, a lot of times like you write for, like the actors that you might have. I think in this one we actually wrote some scenes for the special effects, because we knew we had Dave, Greathouse that was going to be like hit everything out of the park, right? So we're like, let's really challenge him and see what he can come up with all these like scenarios, which was a lot of fun. So really, to take it all the way back, it started with my company, Crash Cat Media Group, and then Cranked Up Films. Like I had originally met the guys from Cranked Up on my previous film. They were going to distribute it, or they were inquiring about distributing it, but I already had a distributor. But it just got us into talking, and they were going through, like this procedure where they were looking for films, looking for directors. They wanted to do a slate of films, indie horror, thriller, sci-fi. And we just kind of were talking. We're like, let's just do something together. Like, what can we do? And it really started from there. And then we went through and had a handful of different concepts. And then collectively we whittled those concepts down to what ultimately became Replicator. We took that, and then like working with those guys over at Cranked Up, we went through the script writing process and the pre-production and production, and did all the post, and they're actually the distributors of it. So like when you see the distribution credits, it's Cranked Up TV, or Cranked Up. Yeah.
Cranked Up Films. Yeah. Like I was telling you also offline, is that next week we're going to have Phil Garrett on. So we're going to lead right into all that stuff, because I've been chatting with him for a bit. They've been all over the place making appearances, and they're all about indie horror. So, we're a good friend. Now back to your trailer. I noticed a little tarot cards here that I had mentioned in our build-up here. They mentioned here they had some Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake vibe. I definitely got that too.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of has like that body horror kind of a vibe to it. But what's funny? Like all the stuff, like the terminology that we're using, like cosmic, like a body horror, like that really wasn't like the genre that like we set out to write. It just kind of came up that way. We just wanted to do cool stuff, right? We just wanted to have a story that went through, and how can you mix in, like all the fun things you get to do in, like the horror genre into a modern day story. And then it kind of evolved into these, subgenres, that kind of hit in different, in interesting ways.
Were there any films in particular that you were a fan of that inspired you to make this movie?
Anything that came out of the 80s. Let's just put it that way.
I love you, brother. I'm a big 80s fan.
Yeah, there's so many nods to 80s films, within this. And if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't.
Right.
But, even like the soundtrack and the style that it was shot and how he wrote the dialogue, I was working with Russ Linway, who's credited, too, that you'll see on the writing part of it. And, Russ was the original creator of the concept, right? And then we took Russ's concept and went through pages and worked together, and Russ did drafts and I did drafts. And, it went back and forth with, Phil and Andy over at Cranked Up. And, we just kept massaging it until this final version that kind of, came up where everyone was kind of comfortable with what it was. But, I bring up like the 80s stuff because a lot of the way that the dialogue was inspired by 80s. Like there's I don't want to say it's a comedy by any means, but there's stupid dad jokes in it. There's like that 80s vibe of like, just dumb humor that, it kind of, I don't know. I like that stuff.
I love to me, the 80s is the greatest genre for horror films. That's what's really cemented my love of horror films. And I mean, we refer back to, we had Fred Olin Ray on our show a couple weeks back, and he's a big 80s guy as well. So I mean, you have me when you say 80s. So now you make me want to watch your movie even more. So
yeah, good. Well, so, it's funny, you mentioned, we were talking about like physical media, like we haven't done this yet, but man, we would love to do a cassette, release of the soundtrack, just like a limited release. Again, it's not to like, we're not, making money on that or anything, but like as a filmmaker and as like, someone that loves the genre and someone that loves the industry, that's just a cool thing to have.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before in a cassette.
And a cassette. I want a cassette. I want a stack of cassettes that I can give out. And if you tell me you don't have a cassette player, well, you're getting one anyway. Put it on a shelf.
Wow. I mean, I've seen them on vinyl and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, back in the day, everything was on cassette and stuff like that. But nowadays, you just don't see it. You see vinyl coming back, and that's like kind of a thing that they're putting it on vinyl. But I haven't heard cassette. I mean, next thing you know, somebody's going to say 8-track.
Right.
Nobody knows what the hell that is, right?
Yeah.
That is really cool. Do you have enough songs to make a full soundtrack?
We do. Yeah. So, the majority of the sonics that you hear in it was scored, and like all of that score, like again, it has like that 80s vibe, the 80s synth kind of, no vocals or anything. It wasn't written like that, and so it's not like a true 80s soundtrack where you hear like all these like vocal versions. There's not that, but it kind of has like that electronic kind of 80s sound to it, and we have quite a few songs that would make that a pretty cool soundtrack. And
look at this, as you speak about this, who pops on? TerraVision publishes soundtracks on cassette. Bang.
Wow, fantastic.
I did not know that.
Beautiful.
That is really cool. I never thought about it. I got to check in and see what the cost would be for that, because that's one of the things. I'm a filmmaker myself as well, and that's one of the things I definitely want to try and do with my next project is plug enough songs in there to where we could make a separate soundtrack. To me, I think that's a great marketing tool for the film itself, plus also something else that might be a potential revenue stream for us and the songwriters as well. So I love that idea, but I never thought about cassettes.
Yeah.
So wow.
And I should mention his name. Will Musser was the composer, like for the film. So just want to make sure that he gets his credit for all the work that he did on it.
Absolutely. Okay. So without any spoilers or anything like that, give us the synopsis basically for Replicator, plus also, is there potential for a sequel, or is this like a one-shot deal and you're moving on?
Yeah. So I'll give you the first part first. It's or your first question first there. Mm-hmm. It takes place in a small town America, modern day. All of the nefarious, kind of sleazy type people in the town, a lot of archetypes, a lot of, and we did that purposefully, they seemingly turn righteous overnight, right? So like you see them in their scoundrelness one day, then the next day it's like, wow, they're just like completely over the top, good and righteous and wholesome, right? So what's happening? We have a sub story going on about our two main characters. They're old friends, played by Bray Noel and Caitlin Newberry. They're the stars of the film. Bray plays an attorney. Like a public defender who her whole goal is to figure things out, right? And justice and doing things by the book the right way. And she starts noticing some of these things happening. In particular, it happens to her sleazy father, right? So now she's really embedded into this world, and she goes on this quest to kind of figure it out. Like, I don't want to give away like the ending,
Right.
or give away like characters and stuff like that, but it's kind of like her journey with Caitlin's character Neela, and how they figure out what is actually happening in this town. And it's all otherworldly, right? It's very grounded, but it is sci-fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's cool, weird stuff in there.
Very cool. Speaking of Caitlin Newberry, who we saw in the trailer, she's actually our indie horror hottie for this upcoming issue that your articles in as well.
Fantastic! That's great. That's great.
A little double shot in there.
Yeah, no, I love it. Caitlin's one of my favorites. She's a great actress. She works hard. She just totally embraces the genre. She's so good at it. She's so professional, and I just love her to death.
So let's get down into how the process was for this film. How many days did you shoot? Where were the locations? Where was it shot? Was it all local? Did you go around? Give us some backgrounds for the filmmakers that are watching today. Give us an idea of how this all came together and what the process was.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and Cranked Up is in Ashland, which, if you don't know, it's about about an hour and 45 minutes south, give or take, like on traffic. And so part of this whole experience and part of writing this was to write to a budget, right around the resources you have, right around everything that you have access to. And in Ashland, the guys at Cranked Up had access to a lot of things that you would need, right? Like the locations and, like city permits and all the stuff that, technically becomes hard to do. But if you just know, just call Frank, he'll get it for you. Like you can do that. So, we wrote a lot of it around, what was available to us in Ashland. We shot it all down there. Principal photography was about 13 days. But we did have a handful of pickups and even like pre-shoots, right? So I believe we shot it in July, end of July, early August, something like that. That was our principal. But speaking of Caitlin, she was actually in town in June for another project that she was, like working on. So we had access to her for 2 days. So we did a couple of shoots a couple of shoot days in June with her to get some of her stuff wrapped out. And then we did a couple of pickup days afterwards, just like, like inserts and all the things that, you just don't get on the day. Right. So that was kind of the process. And then we went right into post-production.
Now you said 13 days. Was that 13 consecutive days, or did you kind of break that up over like a couple different weekends? How'd that work?
We did during the week. We did Monday through Friday. Actually, it was a Monday through Friday, then a Tuesday through Saturday, and then a couple of days the following week. Like some of our locations too. Like we're in city buildings or we're in the courthouse. Like those are like real working city buildings and like a real functioning courthouse. So we kind of had to work around their schedule. So like if there's no court, there's no hearings, there's no nothing on Tuesday after, like 6 p.m. Well, we have to schedule all of our stuff after 6 p.m. And the same with the other city buildings. And then, some of our stuff we planned because there's a lot of night shoots. that we, did all of our nights in a little block. But we tried to keep normal hours, right? We didn't want to really like kill anybody, trying to, pack too much stuff in. So we had a pretty good schedule planned out of how we were going to attack it. And we really, really lucked out in a lot of ways. Weather-wise, never would have been able to do it if in that 13-day plan, if any one of those days it was raining, or any one of those days something was wrong, it would have screwed up everything. But we just said, let's just go for it and see what happens. And it really worked out well for us. So I feel very grateful that it happened that way.
Right. And a lot of things you said there at the beginning is stuff that I'm always preaching when people ask me about it, is that right to the budget. Find out what the budget's going to be, right to the budget. Use the things that you have access to. Because you, at the end of the day, as an independent filmmaker, you don't have the full crew that you're going to have like for a studio film or closed sets or anything like that. So you really need to take a look at that budget and write to that budget and use as many resources and things that you have available to you and factor that into the film for sure.
Yeah. And and on these budgets too, you can't just throw money at problems either.
Right.
Like you have to like solve these problems, and like the logistics of things that come out, the travel schedules of people, like when weather things hit, when something breaks, when something doesn't work, when the battery wasn't charged, all this stuff, the stuff that you have, you have to, continually find creative ways of doing it without just, the studio mindset of, well, just throw more money at that problem and, it'll be fixed.
Exactly. That's why my hat goes off to pretty much any independent filmmaker, because just like you said, you have to be creative in so many aspects. You go there and you're a director for the film. You're not just going to be the director. You're going to be a producer. You're going to be, a line producer. You're going to be in charge of casting, crewing, even as far as going to pick up food and stuff like that for the set. I mean, we do pretty much everything as an indie filmmaker. So to me, when you get a finished product that looks good, that's a hats off to everybody involved, because you've got to take care of things that you would never have to worry about on a studio set. There's always somebody for that. Or like you said, throw money at it or whatever. You don't have that luxury as an independent filmmaker. So you've got to use creativity. So absolutely.
Yeah. And that goes into like locations too, like getting everything you can, like out of those locations, and while you're there, and like, well, we didn't shoot this corner yet. We shot the other 3 corners, but now we have 1 corner left. It's much better to get creative on angles on that corner than having a whole company move to a different location or a different room. Like, we're here, let's shoot it. Let's get what we need. Let's wrap it out, because we got to get to the next spot and give this back to, whoever owns it.
So tell me, as far as Cleveland goes, or as far as the Ohio area goes, what is the film community like? Is it a thriving film community? Is there a lot of people that are making films and acting there, or is it pretty much small? Because the last couple of people we had on, they said their area is very, very small. There's not many people doing it.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty small. It's interesting though, but it's a really nice community. I love the community of filmmakers here. Everyone kind of like knows each other. It's small enough where like you can. Your colleagues, right? Like I consider everybody like colleagues, because at any one time you could be working with them, right? Like it might not be this particular project, but like on the next project, like you could be working with them. So and a lot of people wear multiple hats, like I think that's true of everywhere, but in Cleveland, like specifically, it's very hard to do just one thing and make that like your full-time like your full-time job, right? Like you have to be, if you're a producer, you kind of have to be a director, and you have to be, like an editor, and you have to do marketing as well, right? You have to do all that so you can continually stay busy. There's very few people that like just have one job, and that's what they do. But it's also interesting in the Cleveland area. We have, of course, Ohio has the tax credit. Which there's always the big push to get like the home runs and the big films in, like the Superman, the Marvel type stuff, which is great and wonderful, and everyone, like that's what makes the news all the time. But I think the bread and butter and the like the meat and potatoes of the industry is the indie world. That's the world that I love being in. Those are the people I love working with. Not that I don't like studio films, but I just really love the indie process. And I think it's just as important, to be working on those projects and pushing those projects and funding those projects as it is for, like the grand slams.
Absolutely. I feel exactly like you do. I mean, I love studio films as well. I mean, the Marvel movies and some of the great horror movies with Blum and with James Wan and all this. Absolutely. I love that stuff. But I love the grassroots indie film because to me, just the whole creativity of it, knowing that you're not going to have all the luxuries that a studio might have and a million different crew members and you can call in anybody and all the director really has to do is work with the actors or actresses and the cinematographer. You're going to have to put out fires left and right and do so many things. So I really appreciate that whole process. One thing I did want to ask you about though was when you mentioned the screenwriting process, how you said that it was you and it was basically like a community of people, including Cranked Up and stuff. How did that work? Because I've pretty much written pretty much everything that I've done myself. I'm just now starting to co-write with my partner Amy, which is a delight. But it's pretty much been a small little contingent of just myself or maybe one other person. How was that with you writing with a group of people? How did that process go?
Yeah, I think writing with a group of people like really works when everyone kind of has the same mindset and the same goals. I think it's really hard when those goals are different.
Right.
And you can something that could take a couple of months ends up taking a couple of years, right? When it really doesn't need to do that. But I think in our case, I feel very grateful and fortunate that we didn't have that latter experience. We had the experience where like everyone was kind of in the right mindset of like what this film is and what we all want this film to be. And so starting with Russ, who was tasked with concepts and stuff like that, and then taking it to the first draft as we talk through things, and then at a certain it's almost like a 4x1 in track, right? At some point it's like, okay, now it's my turn to take the baton.
Good point.
Like he got it this far, now it's my turn, I'll take it. Love to take it the rest of the way, but at some point, it's okay. Now let's get others involved. Let's see what their reactions are. It's almost like testing, really. Like we had like the opportunity. So like my version then goes to like the guys at Cranked Up, and we kind of get like this focus group kind of thing coming back where questions get asked and you're like, okay, well, you're the audience, right? So like if you're asking that question, maybe that's something we need to address, right? Or if that didn't come through the way that was intended, maybe we should address that. So we went through that process and kind of answered some questions, but it was like minor things, right? It wasn't like major shifts, because a lot of the things at that stage too, where by the time I took the baton, like I'm walking around Ashland looking at the locations with Phil Garrett, the producer, and we're looking at oh, we can make this scene here, we can make this scene here, we can do that there, like, okay, well, we could get this bar, but we can probably only have it for like one night, so we have to write it we have to write it to be able to achieve this in a night, right? And then so that's kind of how it like took a different shape, right? So there was different phases like of that. And it's funny to go back and read like the original versions, because you're like, wow, that's a different movie, and as more things come along, it shifts and it molds to what you have and what you can do, and ultimately till you get to the point where like everything in this we can achieve.
Yeah, and I think screenwriting by committee, like what you did there, whatever it is, really can work as long as you all have the basically the framework of the film, what you want the film to be, the entire concept, how you want the film to be, whether it's going to be a comedic thing or a straight-laced horror, whatever it is. As long as you all are on the same page of what it is that you're trying to build there, I think that makes it a lot easier when you flesh all that out at the beginning, and then each person does their thing because you're all on the same page at that point. You know what you're trying to create. You're just getting from one point to the next and working together. And like you said, like a focus group, I think that's a great analogy, way to look at it.
Yeah. And you have to take like, going through that process too, like not every note is, needs to be done, right? Like
Right.
it's just a note. It's just something to think about. And if you agree with it, like as the writer or as the director, then and it's a great idea, then gosh, throw your ego aside and make it work, right? But like if you really feel strongly about like that doesn't work because of other reasons, then then pick your battles, and how it's gonna shape up. But I think everyone that was involved kind of like came in with that mindset of just wanting to do something cool and kind of like leave your ego at the door and let's just best idea wins. And that was really, really rewarding, to be part of a group like that.
Very cool. Now, one thing that pretty much everybody to a T, almost always asks me on the show here or on my Facebook page or anything is about funding, because there's so many different ways to potentially get funding. There's a crowdfunding, there's private investors, there's angel investors, of course, there's your own pockets. How did that process start with you all? Did you guys have like a system in place that you use that you did that just kind of panned out for you, or did it just kind of come organically? How'd that work out?
Yeah. So I'll actually take it a step farther back to my previous film, which was a werewolf film, and going through that process, I was fundraising that one literally through like COVID, right when like COVID, like hit. So this is 2020-ish, and I was still in asking people with deep pockets to like fund my film, right? It was, hey, here's my budget. I'm going to be very fiscally responsible. Like I'm going to, penny pinch when I have to, but I'm not going to be cheap either. We still want to make like a picture. We want to make it achievable and we want to make it sellable. And so that one was our main like investors came from out of town. I had to drive, like halfway across the country, like to meet them and all that stuff. And then we ended up getting that one funded through that process. And I bring that up because it was completely different for Replicator. So Replicator, the funding came from Cranked Up Films. So they started this, like we were talking about earlier, they started this slate of films, which they were funding and they were doing, and they were using folks like me to partner with, like to create these films. So it almost was like, here is it worked backwards, right? It was like, here's a budget, here's what we want to, stay within. Here's part of their business plan. Make your picture for that. And then we work backwards from that, what kind of genres, like here's stipulations, here's the genres, make it cool, add cool stuff to it. Here's your budget, right? And, don't take 10 years to do it.
Right.
And let's go. And so that was completely different, right? Completely different.
Very cool. Okay, we do have a question here for you. From Dean. Was there a scene you didn't get to do in Replicator? Maybe something in the script that you had planned out, but it didn't work out, budgetary reasons, time, resources, whatever. Was there anything that got left on the cutting room floor? Anything like that?
There was. Like I was saying earlier when we first started this, like I love stupid humor, right? I love, dry jokes. I love all that kind of stuff. And so, the original, and we actually shot this. There were a couple of scenes that we're going to put on the DVD extras or the Blu-ray extras,
Nice.
right? That they were great scenes, as standalone funny scenes. But then when we got to, and when you're reading the script, they read great. But then when you see it in the edit, the film starts taking this turn to like Seriousville, and it was real hard to make that jump back to,
right,
like Stupid Jokesville. And so like some scenes had to be either truncated and some of that humor taken out, or, one scene altogether, like had to be taken out. But it was heartbreaking, but you're looking at it, you're like, crap, like I love this scene, but it just it didn't hit with the flow.
So is there a chance we may see Replicator director's cut out there at some point?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. And a lot more stupid humor in it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let me ask a couple different questions. One is, how did you get started in filmmaking? Where did that process start? And who are some of your, I don't know, I guess the people that you look up to, your heroes that got you into it, that made you want to become the filmmaker that you are today?
Yeah. So I actually started in music. Like I had always played in, bands and rock bands, and I was really into, like growing up, just like the music scene. And actually, when I went to college, like I started going into engineering because, that's what I thought you had to do. And then I realized that this isn't for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to switch my major to music, right? So I got a music minor, a lot of studio stuff, and I got out into the world and realized there are not very many jobs, for people in music. What are you going to do? And so I also took a lot of film classes in art classes in school, as I always loved art growing up as well. And so I'm like, I'm going to get into the film side of things, the picture side of things. And in Cleveland, the biggest market that you could do that was the advertising market, right? So like if you can get in some of the big agencies, and back at that time, agencies were still pretty big, right? Like they still had big national clients, and you were still going through the storyboarding process. You're still going through the writing process. You're still doing all the things, that Mad Men did, right? And so really got into film that way. Even more. Now, these are huge budgets for 30-second commercials at the time, like ridiculous amount of people, way more than, is necessary. But you get to learn everything, within that process. But always wanted to do, like the entertainment stuff was always, really, really my passion. And so, fast forward, the business model in Cleveland really shifted from a commercial base to an entertainment based, which is kind of where it is. So like our business we were servicing the entertainment community, right? Like we were doing like I was an editor for a film, and then I became an editor for another film, and then an editor for another film, then a colorist, and then visual effects came in, and then audio post, and then shooting, DPing a film. And so you do all these like we were talking about earlier, you have to do all these things, all these different jobs, till eventually you get to the point where like, I think I did every job that like is on this crew that used to be in these big crews. Like I know exactly what they're doing. And it was just kind of like a natural fit then to go into writing and directing.
Very cool. So who are your inspirations? Who growing up? I mean, are there any filmmakers or whether it be Spielberg or whatever it is that really made you want to become a filmmaker?
Yeah, I think the indie world for me is what made me want to become, like a filmmaker. And so, yeah, you can say like the bigger names, like the Spielberg, but like that's not really why I wanted to become, like a filmmaker. Like I wanted to become a filmmaker, for some of the lesser known that still made fantastic pictures, right, and still told great stories with little resources. Right. And so like to me that's really, really inspiring. And like it's because the creative process is not just the script. It's how do you achieve said
right
script,
absolutely
right? Like that's just that you have to be just as creative to be able to figure all that stuff out. Right. So like anything that kind of has like big production value but like little budget, that's what kind of like inspires me.
Very cool. All right, so back to Replicator. I remember I asked you this question and we didn't quite answer it yet, so it's going to lead into my next question. Without giving it away, without any spoilers or anything like that, is there a potential for a sequel to Replicator, or is it pretty much a done deal there?
There's always a potential. We set it up that way, like we created this universe, or I should say like this cinematic world, within this storyline where it lends itself to be very easily the next chapter.
Nice.
Right? And it ends in a way that you're like, well, okay, crap, what's going to happen next? And we did that purposefully for this, like opportunity, if anything, where we, kind of like want to go back and, like make another one. But I think, and I think any filmmaker, kind of, may agree with this, or maybe not, but maybe it's just me. But, you do a certain project and you're ready to move on to something else, because you put so much of your stuff into one thing, and you're like, okay, I want to do something completely different. And then when I'm ready, go back to that previous world when the timing is right and when the passion is there, so that's kind of like where we're at. But like, it's definitely, the stage is set for another one. Now it's just timing. I think that'll dictate when that happens.
Okay. We had Dean ask another question. I may have missed it. He said, but first director of film? Not quite sure if he's talking about Replicator, or you were the director of Replicator, right?
Yes, I was the director. No, this was not, maybe this was not my first film directing.
Okay.
The film before that was called The Hunting. That was my first narrative, a scripted feature that I directed. I had done feature documentaries before that one, and I did scripted shorts before that one. So I guess Replicator would be my second scripted feature.
Very cool. All right. So we're getting down to time here. So let's start talking about the future. Now that Replicator is in the bag, what's the next process for it? Is it doing the film festival circuit? What's happening with it?
Yeah. So it did a lot of film festivals when we released. That's kind of how we released it. Like, we released it at festivals.
Okay.
So it actually premiered at Nightmares Film Festival in Columbus, which was a fantastic experience. That was the world premiere of it. And then a handful of other genre-based festivals around that time. So now it's it's in the streaming world. So go rent it and buy it, so that we can make another one.
All right. So they can get it on Cranked Up, right?
They can get it on Cranked Up TV. You can get it on, like I said, Amazon, Apple, Fandango at home. I think that's still Voodoo Fandango at home. I don't even know
Fandango, yeah.
have anymore. Google Play, I think it's still on there. But Cranked Up TV is like go there first.
Okay. Now, you did say something about physical media, that you were going to be putting a lot of special features. Do you know, is there any timeline as far as when we can see a release there?
I would imagine in a couple of months. Like, we kind of have a lot of the vignettes done and the behind the scenes done, and we're going to be recording commentary and stuff like that. And so it's just finding the time to get all that stuff produced, because if you want to make physical media, you want to have other cool stuff on there, right, for the audience to kind of experience. So we're kind of in that process now.
Yeah, I've always been a big proponent of that, because to me, if you can load up a DVD or Blu-ray with so many bonus features, like we did that for my first Nightmare collection, where we had the wraparound story, and then we had a couple of short films, and for each short film, they had their own section that had behind the scenes stuff, deleted scenes, trailers, comic books, all that stuff. To me, if you do stuff like that and somebody's looking at that DVD, even if they're not really 100% sold on that film, just the fact that you've got so much on there, whatever it is to choose from, a lot of times I think people will buy it just to give it a shot, because there's so much to look at.
Yeah. And even some of our deleted scenes that we were talking about earlier. I mean, it's, I hate that, the fact that no one would see those, right? Like, I want people to see them, even if it's just that scene alone as a standalone, just to see it. Right.
So what do you got coming up next? Do you have anything lined up already, or do you have a few things on the slate? What's happening?
Yeah. So like we were talking about before, kind of the ebbs and flows of staying interested, and kind of what you're doing. Like, I always bounce, and it seems this way, bounce between a scripted and then documentary, then scripted, then documentary. So since Replicator, I went into another documentary. It's more of a serious tone. It's about a mother who is fighting for her kids after she went through some substance abuse issues up in Montana. And so that film is done, and that'll be released here in the next couple of months. So we'll go through that release process and that promotion process, and kind of get that out in the world and get that going. And then in the meantime, as that's happening, I have about four to five other scripts that are at the tail end of kind of being written. That would be, we'll see which one of those hits for after that. Okay. Some of them, I think three of those are in the horror thriller genre. One of them's a comedy, just because I wanted to do a comedy, try it and see, how it hits. But I think it's fantastic, and I'm really excited about it. And that would be like the next wave of after this documentary thing gets through.
So do you see yourself basically staying in Ohio and filming everything there, or do you look at yourself possibly packing up and moving somewhere else, like whether it be to an Atlanta or even California or anything like that? Or
I would never move. Like I would go shoot there, but like I'm a Midwest guy. This is my home. I mean, I chose to do it here. I mean, my family's here. Like if I got to go somewhere for a small period of time, absolutely. But I'm not moving.
There you go. I like that. You got your roots. You're staying where you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that a lot of people are always telling me, or I'm hearing from a lot of different filmmakers that, oh, well, you got to go to California. That's where it's all happening. You don't. And not just that, but if you go to California and shoot, you're going to have to pay through the nose for every location because everybody's shooting there. You come to some place like Florida or even or where you're at or whatever, where there isn't a huge. A lot of people just like to have their places of business and this and that involved in a film. You might get a location for free or really, really cheap just because you're making something. It's exciting to them. California, it's not exciting to them. It's a business.
Yeah, exactly. And people are probably, gonna, like price gouge you, like you said. They're gonna squeeze every penny out of it. There's not going to be favors. No one's doing favors. And then even like shooting in your hometowns or where you're from, like that's your community of people you're around every day. Like you have these resources. You might not be thinking it at the time, right? But like you have that's your community. Those are your people, right?
That's
like you need help. Those are the ones to go to. The people out of town, a lot of the times, like they're not there to help you. They're there to make money, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely always, say like you can do it anywhere, and I think you should, unless it's so specific to like a location.
Exactly.
Otherwise, do it with your own community.
Well, you also touched on that too, where you were walking around your area and stuff and finding locations or whatever. Like you said, you live there, so you know your area. So when you're writing your script, I think a lot of things are being visualized. Oh, we can shoot this here, we can shoot that there, because you've been there. You know it. You know the people you need to reach out to. You go to California or New York or something like that, you're going to have to basically have a location manager and find places and stuff that you're just not familiar with. And then figuring all that out as well, just to me adds to the burden.
It does. And even, it gets down to like the nitty gritty too. Like when you're walking through a location and it, like in your head, even though you might not be writing it down, like you're blocking it. Like you're like planning all the stuff that has to happen. If you're just to kind of like show up, and especially on an indie budget, if you're just to show up and like, here's a day, look at it, you're setting yourself up for a tough time, So you gotta have time to think about how you're going to do it.
All right. So I know Phil was the probably the EP for that, and he was also helped with the screenwriting process. Did he also come out and be a part of the production as well?
Oh yeah. So Scott Donnelly was the EP. So Scott is the founder of Cranked Up Films. Phil is the head of production at Cranked Up, and Phil served as a lot of things. Like Phil was a creative partner. Phil was a producer. Phil's in the film. We kill Phil off. And Phil was just a great colleague and friend through the process, and it worked out really, really well to just be able to have a colleague like that you can work through and ping things off of and have daily conversations and not get tired of each other. I thought that was fantastic. So. Phil had a lot to do with the creation of this film, and he should be rightfully credited for that as well.
I like that a lot. I mean, my conversations with him so far have been really good. I love the whole concept and everything as far as Cranked Up. But the fact that he got in there, got his hands dirty, and got involved in the whole thing, that to me is even better.
Yeah. And Phil is, like very willing to teach too, right? So like you hire crew and. I think a lot of our crew was fantastic and, really knew what they were doing. But there's always those moments where, like this is a teaching moment. This is a learning moment, right? Let's not get pissed off and, yell at people, right? Like this is an opportunity to teach somebody something. And I think that was kind of the vibe of our production. And I'm proud that it worked out that way, because that's the way that I am. And, not that I want to be like all kumbaya and everything, but like,
right.
you don't have to be an a-hole, so.
All right. Well, we are out of time now. So, in closing, is there anything that you want to get across? Tell us where we can, where people can reach you on socials or anything like that.
Yeah. So, Crash Cat Media Group is our handle. Primarily, we're on Instagram. Like that's our big platform, and then of course Facebook, and then our website is crashcatmedia.com. But our Instagram, we do a lot of communication through that, right? Like we answer DMs, we answer comments. We try to be as engaging as we possibly can. For us, that's the platforms that's the easiest to do that. So like all of our latest greatest stuff goes on there, and we love talking to people from that platform.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you don't mind, I'm going to put you off screen here real quick so I can say goodbye and shut the podcast down, and then I can give you a proper goodbye here just a moment.
All right, great. Okay? Sounds good.
All right, Mark, thank you for joining us. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. I think this was a great episode. We got a lot of good stuff there. You can definitely go back and check it out on YouTube where it'll be archived. So definitely look him up. Mark is a very talented guy. He's got a lot of great resources, a lot of great stuff coming up as well. So definitely check him out. Okay. Other than that, thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next Wednesday.